The Galactic Empire had crushed countless civilizations under its iron rule, and humanity was destined to be no different. From the moment Imperial fleets darkened the skies of Earth's colonies, the outcome had seemed inevitable. With warships the size of cities and armies numbering in the millions, the Empire's war doctrine was simple: overwhelm, annihilate, and move on. Imperial commanders had seen this pattern play out before. Primitive species often attempted resistance, relying on outdated technology and laughable tactics. The result was always the same: devastation. Humanity had proven slightly more stubborn than expected, but in the eyes of the Empire, that only prolonged the inevitable. Their weapons were crude, their ships outdated, and their armies too few. What did they have? Save for desperation, High General Zyvar leaned back in his seat aboard the dreadnought Veilkesh, surveying the battlefield through a massive tactical holodisplay. A towering figure with deep-set crimson eyes, he radiated the cold arrogance that came naturally to the rulers of the stars. The resistance on the surface was already faltering. Scattered human troops clung to the ruins of their cities, hiding behind shattered structures like insects burrowing into the dirt. Zyvar sneered. They think their terrain will save them, that their knowledge of this pitiful planet gives them an edge. He turned to his officers, clad in polished battle regalia. Watch closely. Soon they will break. A chorus of amused chuckles filled the bridge. These were battle-hardened Imperials, veterans of 1,000 campaigns. They had reduced entire civilizations to nothing but dust. Humanity was no different. On the planet below, armored divisions advanced with mechanical precision. Columns of sleek, grav tank battalions glided over the rocky terrain, their plasma cannons leveling entire blocks at a time. Swarms of battle drones scoured the ruins, methodically exterminating any signs of resistance. Overhead, Imperial gunships prowled like carrion birds, their laser arrays searing through anything that moved. In one of the last human strongholds, a city reduced to smoldering rubble. Captain Elias Vance crouched behind a collapsed wall, gripping his rifle with white-knuckled intensity. The Empire had underestimated humanity before, but this time they had done something worse. They had dismissed them entirely. Vance glanced at the remaining soldiers under his command. They were exhausted, outnumbered, and low on supplies, but their eyes still burned with defiance. The Empire thought this war was already won, and that arrogance would be their undoing. A metallic voice crackled through his comms. Multiple armored divisions advancing from the east. Air support en route. We hold them here. Hold them. Against the most advanced war machine the galaxy had ever seen. Vance clenched his jaw. They had no reinforcements. No miracle weapon. Just determination, ingenuity, and one final trick up their sleeve. A kilometer away, unseen by the Imperial war machines, a lone figure moved through the ruins like a phantom. Every step was precise, every movement calculated. The sniper had been waiting for this moment. Unlike the Imperial commanders, they understood the battlefield not as a chessboard of cold strategy, but as a living, breathing entity. Every shadow was a potential hiding place, every broken building a vantage point. The Empire had always won through superior force, but force meant nothing if you never saw the enemy. Above, the sky was alight with the flickering glow of orbital bombardments. The Veilkesh continued to rain destruction upon the world below, its weapons reducing entire sectors to ash. And yet, somewhere in the midst of that chaos, a single shot would change everything. Zyvar was still watching the battle unfold when a transmission interrupted the serene confidence on the bridge. The voice on the other end was clipped, controlled, but there was an undercurrent of unease. High General, we have a situation. Zyvar arched an eyebrow. Explain. One of our commanders, Field Marshal Terran, has been eliminated. Zyvar's expression remained impassive. Unfortunate, but hardly worth. The shot was precise, General. From a distance our scanners cannot pinpoint. Terran's entire command structure was destabilized in seconds. That was unexpected, Zyvar folded his hands behind his back, considering. The Empire's targeting systems were designed to neutralize threats before they could act. Any resistance that surfaced was met with overwhelming firepower. But if a sniper had managed to kill a high-ranking officer before being detected, Zyvar waved a hand dismissively. A lucky shot. Nothing more. Another voice broke in, this time more urgent. Sir, we just lost another officer. Colonel Varek. Same method. No trace of the shooter. Zyvar's gaze snapped back to the holo-display. On the surface, the Imperial advance had slowed. It was subtle, but there a hesitation in movement, a creeping uncertainty among the troops. He knew what that meant. Fear. The soldiers didn't understand what was happening, but they felt it. The presence of something they couldn't see. One by one, their commanders were being erased. The efficiency of their war machine was beginning to falter. For the first time in a long while, Zyvar felt a sliver of irritation. This was not how battles were supposed to go. The Empire dictated the terms of war. They crushed resistance with overwhelming might, not whatever this was. He turned sharply to his tactical officer. Find them now. Below, the sniper exhaled slowly, steadying their breath. They had spent years perfecting this art, moving like a ghost through the wreckage of civilization. The Empire thought victory was a matter of brute strength. That was their mistake. The battle was far from over. But for the first time, the Empire had realized they were not invincible. The wind howled through the ruins, carrying the acrid scent of burning metal and scorched earth. High above the battlefield, Imperial warships loomed like predatory beasts, their cannons still smoldering from the day's devastation. The ground trembled beneath the weight of advancing legions, their armor gleaming beneath the storm-choked sky. Nestled within the crumbling remains of a collapsed skyscraper, a lone figure adjusted the scope of their rifle. Their breathing was steady, their hands motionless. In the chaos of war, they were an anomaly, calm, deliberate, patient. They had no squadron, no direct orders. Just a rifle, a mission, and an intimate understanding of death. The sniper had been watching for hours, studying, calculating. The enemy moved with the arrogance of conquerors, their formations pristine, their lines unbroken. They had no reason to fear. Humanity had never given them one. Until now, through the scope, the sniper tracked an Imperial officer, his golden insignia marking him as someone important. He barked orders, gesturing toward advancing troops with the confidence of a man who believed himself untouchable. A mistake. The sniper's finger curled around the trigger. A deep breath, a heartbeat, then silence. The shot rang out, a whisper compared to the deafening roars of war. The officer's head snapped back, his body crumpling before the soldiers around him realized what had happened. A moment of stillness, then chaos. Shouts, confusion, panic. The sniper was already gone, slipping through the rubble like a shadow. They had spent years perfecting this art, kill, relocate, disappear. The Empire fought wars with overwhelming force. But war was not just about power. It was about fear. And fear had begun to spread. The Imperial comms crackled with tension. Reports of an unseen enemy. Officers falling one by one. Command structures collapsing in real time. High General Zyvar watched from the bridge of his dreadnought, his fingers curled into a fist. This is an inconvenience, nothing more, he said, voice cold. Find them. But finding a ghost was not so simple. The sniper never fired from the same location twice, never left a pattern. Each shot was unpredictable, each disappearance seamless. The Imperials responded the only way they knew how, with firepower. Artillery reduced entire blocks to molten slag. Drones combed the ruins with thermal scanners. Soldiers poured into the city in search of a phantom. And yet, the deaths continued. A squad commander collapsed mid-sentence. A pilot was ripped from the sky with a shot through the cockpit glass. Engineers, communication officers, tactical specialists, each kill strategically chosen, each death carving another fracture into the Empire's war machine. By nightfall, something had changed. The soldiers no longer marched with mechanical efficiency. They hesitated at open crossings, flinched at distant sounds. It was subtle, but it was there, the first cracks of uncertainty. Zyvar's patience frayed. He had faced resistance before, but nothing like this. This was not a rebellion. It was not a battle. It was a hunt, and for the first time, the Empire was not the predator. Desperation crept into their tactics. Patrols moved in tighter formations, shields raised, weapons drawn. They turned their weapons on the ruins themselves, reducing hiding spots to rubble, but it did not matter. The sniper was not a position. The sniper was a presence. As dawn broke, the battlefield was unrecognizable. Imperial forces still held their ground, their numbers undiminished, but something intangible had shifted. The air was thick with unease, with something the Empire had never truly known before, doubt. The sniper watched from a perch high above, rifle resting across their knee. The battle was far from over, but the war had already changed. The Empire had laughed at human tactics. They were not laughing anymore. The battlefield was no longer a display of Imperial dominance. It was a graveyard of their own making. Fires smoldered where towering machines once stood, and the once pristine formations of the Empire's legions had unraveled into a disjointed, faltering mass. Soldiers who had once marched with mechanical precision now moved with wary hesitation, their eyes scanning every rooftop, every shattered window, every shadow. The sniper had turned their war into something the Empire did not understand. This was not a contest of numbers, not a struggle of firepower or brute strength. It was a war of patience, of terror, of control. And the sniper controlled everything. From the bridge of the Veilkesh, High General Zyvar watched his forces with barely contained fury. The battle should have been over. The humans should have been crushed under the weight of Imperial might. Instead, a single phantom had thrown his entire campaign into chaos. Every attempt to locate the sniper had ended in failure. Every countermeasure had been met with another fallen officer, another splintered command. The Empire was losing not because it lacked power, but because it no longer had direction. Zyvar turned sharply to his second-in-command, his crimson eyes burning. "Deploy the Omega contingent. I want this ghost eradicated." The Omega contingent, his personal elite, genetically enhanced and armed with the most advanced tracking technology in the Empire's arsenal. If anything could flush out the sniper, it was them. Within minutes, the strike force descended onto the battlefield, moving with ruthless efficiency. They combed through the ruins, their sensors piercing through smoke and debris, their weapons primed for a single kill. But the sniper had been waiting. The first fell before they even realized they were being hunted. A precise shot through the visor, the soldier collapsing without a sound. The second and third soon followed, their bodies crumpling before alarms could be raised. It was not an attack. It was a dissection. Panic gripped the remaining soldiers. This was supposed to be an execution, not a slaughter. Yet they were the ones being erased, one by one, methodically, mercilessly. In the midst of the chaos, the sniper moved unseen, weaving through the ruins, leading the Imperials deeper into their own fear. Every kill was intentional, every shot a message. You are not the hunters here. Zyvar's rage boiled over as reports flooded in. He slammed a fist onto the command console, shattering its glass surface. The Omega contingent had never failed before. Never. But now, they were just more corpses littering the battlefield. And then silence. For a moment, it seemed the sniper had vanished entirely. No new attacks, no further disruptions. Just a quiet stillness that stretched across the ruins like a held breath. Zyvar's mind raced. This wasn't a retreat. The sniper wasn't fleeing. They were waiting. Then his blood ran cold. The silence was not hesitation. It was calculation. The sniper had learned his patterns, anticipated his reactions. They weren't just dismantling his army. They were coming for him. The realization hit just as the first shot rang out. A high-ranking officer to his left collapsed, blood pooling beneath his polished boots. Then another, and another. The bridge of the Veilkesh, once a place of absolute control, descended into chaos. Zyvar moved swiftly, issuing orders, demanding countermeasures, but it was too late. The sniper had already breached the final threshold. A single shot shattered the command viewport. Air roared into the chamber as atmosphere vented into space, and in that instant Zyvar knew. He was no longer the executioner. He was the prey. His body jerked back, the force of the impact sending him sprawling. Darkness crept at the edges of his vision. As he fell, the last thing he saw was the battlefield below, his mighty army fracturing, breaking, running. The Empire had come to teach humanity a lesson in war. Instead, they had learned what it meant to fear.